Hi everybody, Rob Sutherland here. It's summertime and the living is easy. It's 4th of July. I'm thinking about maybe some outdoor activities, some cocktails, and for me that means a margarita, which means squeezing lime. So this is going to be a project on how to make a citrus reamer. It's really fun. It involves closing a form and 2 walls. So pay attention, you'll learn how to do this. You can apply it to some other fun projects as well. I've got maybe 1.75 pounds of clay here. We'll see how that goes. It may be suitable for oranges as well, but I'm doing this on a bat. These are absolutely a pain to pick up without a bat, so that'll save you some headache. We'll center it up. Okay, so I'm going to make this thing that has multiple parts all at once. First thing I'm going to do is open all the way to the wheel head because I don't need anything underneath the dome that I'm going to texture for squeezing the limes. So I'm going to just go ahead and open all the way down to the wheel. Now I'm going to pull out with my finger on the wheel as far out as I think I need for the inside of the dome that will create the surface where I'm actually going to squeeze those limes. Now, it doesn't take a whole lot of clay from this point to get something up and closed. So I'm going to split this, but splitting it not in half, but very much favoring lots of clay on the outside, a little bit of clay on the inside. And I don't use a tool, I just use my index finger, but I support it. And I'm going to sort of press down into that wall of clay. I want to leave a floor because I want my central dome to be connected to the part that's going to contain the juice. So that's, I've gone down hopefully to 1/4 inch from the wheel. I'm going to check that. And I've got a little more than 1/4 inch, so it's good to check it early and then you can go farther. Now I'm just going to pull this up and close. It looks like I may have a little bit more clay than I need in this central cone or central cylinder. If I end up with too much, I can just pinch off what I don't need. So I'm going to pull it up and in. This is just kind of a 2-finger pulling job. Before I close it all the way, I want to make sure that I haven't left a lot of thickness. Doesn't matter if these are crazy lightweight, but I don't need to make it suitable for sailboats and things. Okay, so at this point I'm looking at this and I see the size that I have there, and I'm gonna go ahead and actually, before I close it, I want to reach in and get some of that water out. My favorite tool for that is just one of those cheap foam craft store brushes. They work great. And of course, when I need one, I can't find it in my box. If you know me, you know that that's pretty typical. Oh well, I can do it differently. I'll just open it up and get my sponge in there and close it back down. If at first you don't succeed. Gotta love that about clay. All right, now we're dried out. We can close it back. And I'm just gonna close it until it closes down to nothing. And I'm gonna kind of work that back into the cone shape that I wanted. That seems like it should match the inside of a lime, or a lemon, or even a small orange. All right, now what I have left is enough clay to make a nice bowl that will let me collect all those yummy juices. So I'm gonna bring it out a little bit so I've got a little space to get my hands and I'm not banging my knuckles. And then I'll go ahead and bring this up. It doesn't need to be that high. I mean, how much lemon juice or lime juice is anybody really going to squeeze at one time? So that looks about right. Leave a nice heavy lip there, because I think I'm gonna make a little pour spout on it too. Just a little dainty one. All right. So we've got the inner dome, we've got the outer section here. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of compress this rim with the chamois. One thing I'm checking, yes, my dome is just slightly lower than my rim, which means if I decide that I wanna trim this or kind of clean up the underside, it's gonna be really easy to flip it over onto another bat and have it not get all out of shape. They're almost the same, and that's good because it is possible for the weight of that dome to kind of pull the center down, and if it just sets down on the point, it'll all be good. So let's get a rib in here and kind of clean up the juice collection area. And let's clean up the outside. Take that wooden knife and clean up down here at the base. I want to make it nice enough that I possibly don't even need to trim anything. I may just decide to do it because I'll like the way it looks. Now, this little funny tool here is not my normal tool that I use for trimming, but the reason I have it out is it has got little teeth on it, little texture. And I'm gonna use that to just make some surface marks on the dome. It's hopefully gonna extract a little bit more juice out of my citrus. So I'm just gonna come from the base where it meets and slide up to the top. And I'm gonna do that again. And then again and again, all the way around. Try not to overthink it. And I think I must have had too much coffee because my hand's a little shaky, but I'll call that a feature rather than a fault. All right, so yeah, that looks very, very shaky, but I'll say that's all part of the design. Resist the temptation anytime you make a texture or mark like that to mess with it. I see some goobers and things. Just let that thing get dry and then they'll just sort of snap off. If you try to mess with it too soon, they'll just get stuck and then you'll be fighting yourself. Okay, so final step is a nice little pour spout. And for me, that's gonna be a pulled spout. I don't like a spout that droops below the line of the pot. I think they look a little bit sort of sad when you do it that way. So I'm gonna take the side of the middle joint of my index finger and the flat pad of my thumb and elevate a little section of that rim. And having left it a little thick, it'll be easy to do. So slightly damp and just pulling up. And then I'll move myself back and forth. Obviously, citrus juice is not very viscous, so I don't need a big wide spout. Maybe about that wide, about as wide as, I don't know, 1.5 inches. And I'll spin that around so I can kind of see, and you can see that that is a little section that's elevated, and it's got a decent curve on either side. Now I want to define that area, so I'm going to support the elevated part, and I'm going to grasp the section of wall just beyond the elevated part, and I'm going to displace it inward so that it kind of defines the part that's spout and the part that's the regular pot. So I'm supporting and displacing. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side with the opposite hands. So supporting and displacing. So now I've got a distinct little spout, and I can hold it back and take my finger and kind of smooth the belly of that spout out. So that should channel all the juice right out of there. Now there are definitely things about that I would change, but from experience, I know, don't try to change it now. I'm gonna come back with a chamois and take those sharp edges off later on when it's good and leather hard. For right now, just leave it alone. The more I mess with it at the wet stage, the bigger mess it's gonna be. I'll just make more work for myself. So that is the citrus pour. You could consider making some kind of modification to the backside to make it easier to pour. I'm guessing it'll just be fine to hold on to, especially if I trim a little foot, I can kind of grab the rim in the foot. So I'm gonna keep it simple, just have a pour spout on one side and have the rest of the bowl just be as is. I think I'm gonna constrict this a little bit after I said I wasn't gonna mess with it. Just so that it pours in a little bit of narrower stream. And there's your citrus reamer. Fun project, fun to use, and surprisingly useful this time of year. Thanks for watching.